All right, so good evening and welcome all of you to our special class. This is a class on project management, and we will be discussing a lot more about the project planning phase. I've already created a video. I shared a video of project planning that was done and posted on YouTube. I shared the link. I hope some of you have been able to go through. If yes, I will be happy if you can share feedback. And then also the lessons for last week, maybe sharing with us some of the key takeaways and things that you still remember from there. Okay, let's hear from Mr. Bima, then we can move to others.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you to all our colleagues. I think it's good to be back again. Yeah, one of the things we talk on, they gone last class that really touched my heart and I've really been going over is the categorization of the engagement level of stakeholders. And in that, we discussed 5 areas, all right, when it comes to stakeholder management. One of them was aware, resistant, neutral, supportive, and leading. And we said some people, when it comes to project management, some stakeholders, they are unaware, all right? Meaning that they don't even care. While the project is doing, not is doing, they have time, all right? Then you get some that they are adequately, they are usually involved within the project. What are the project benefit them? They not benefit them, they are involved. They get some stakeholder like that. All right. So they get some when when they're not part of it, they don't have time. All right. What are the projects or CEO? They not so CEO, they don't have time when they are not part. All right. And then they get some there that some of the stakeholders there that can be able to adequately that they can be able to support the project, that the project will succeed. Even they not benefit, but because it's in their communities and they want good names, they will be able to benefit from that project. They always made that community need to go. They also take part within that project. So it was one of the things we discussed that are very important in any project that you want to adequately, you want to succeed. These are things that you have to look at. These are stakeholders that you have to look at. Which one have interest? We want to not have interest. We want a partially part and the other partially part, and we listed them at that listen which on where resistant, neutral, supportive, and leading. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that was a very good takeaways because we already emphasized on those as an important aspect of managing projects. Right, so let's hear from others. Yes, Lawrence or Joseph Wa, let's hear from you. I guess you followed through with the session and you were able to take something special.
Yeah, I want to say a big thank to Bima. Hello? Hello?
We are there.
Hello?
Go ahead. We are there.
You are
Go ahead.
good. You are good.
Okay, good. I want to commend Bima for what he just spoke of, but just shortly on the overall, what I took away in all of the explanations, one good thing I know, project implementer, you got to be a strategist. You got to be a persuasive person. You got to see people from their faces. You're able to know that there exists problem. You must understand the basic psychology of a human being. Otherwise, you're definitely going to fail. You could do the analysis. You could do the everything. The person could have interest. The person have interest. They don't do. I mean, vice versa, whatever way. But on the overall, the same people that get interest from the community, you will get them. But what happened to that same person, brother, that is way in Monrovia? He arrived in the county. He gone in his village, and that person is Uncle man for the people. He just go there and start telling the people, invite that photo they can take of people. The people making love from no photos. In the project, when they give it, they can give them money. if you are not a strategist, a persuasive person, that project are going for 2 years, once or no more uncle had arrived in that village. People were dancing to the tune of the project. He's just going to say something in the town hall and everything will go upside down. So what I really grabbed from our teaching last week, stakeholder engagement, the other person get interest. The key takeaway that I prepare myself to do is I must be a strategist as a project implementer. I must be persuasive. I must understand the basic psychology in the rural setting. And if I do this, I know I'm able to maintain project with stakeholder, I'm able to manage the stakeholder very well. I submit.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Wow, thank you very much. Lawrence, were you in any way part of discussion last week? I don't know if I have to capture that.
No, I was absent.
Okay.
Absent.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Right. So very important things that you guys have shared with us. And of course, we can definitely take some important aspects of this, when it comes to project management. All right, so we're going to talk about some important aspects of project management today. And our focus is on the planning phase. I remember we said we are discussing the project management, project planning, and we will be discussing every component of the planning phase as it concerns project management. So let me know if you can see my screen. Please confirm with me if you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. I'm seeing the screen, sir.
All right. Thank you. Are you all seeing my screen, guys? Can we have others to confirm?
Yes.
Your screen are very live.
Very live. You enjoying it? Okay.
I'm seeing it from my end as well.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. So we are talking about project planning, and our focus is on the part 1 of project planning. Remember the last class, we talked about the different plans you need to develop in project plan. We mentioned procurement plan, we mentioned the project management plan, we mentioned the project financial plan, the project quality plan, and the communication plan, and so on. Right. But today, our focus will be on, remember we talked about the 10 knowledge areas in project management. And the 2 of the knowledge areas we mentioned was integration management and scope management, project integration and project scope management. So we're going to look at this lesson will be focusing on the project integration and the project scope management. But we're going to put more emphasis on project scope management, and we're going to take you through what a project scope is, so you properly understand in detail when it comes to project scope management. So that when you're defining a project scope, you will be able to define it in a way that even those who reading your project document can understand exactly what your project focused on. Now let's jump into it, right? So the focus of this lesson is to help you know the importance of creating plans to guide project execution. It's important to understand that you need to have a plan that will guide your project execution phase, so that you don't just wake up and start running with something that you don't have a plan on. Another thing is we're going to look at the planning processes and what are some of the outputs for project integration and project scope management when you are using a predictive approach to project management. So we'll be talking about the processes and the outputs, those different results, deliverables that you will get during the planning phase. All right, we'll be talking about the different aspects of planning as it involves, and we will talk about what we call the work breakdown structure, WBS, which is going to be a focus, a center of our discussion. And we'll break this WBS down, and it will help you know how to craft activities and come up with different project tasks. That is the focus of that. How to outline or organize your project activities in a way that is structured and ensuring that you know the path you're going to take in terms of implementing it. And remember, we said that the scope planning for Agile is different from the scope planning for a predictive approach. Don't forget, the predictive or the waterfall approach is a straightforward approach. In this approach, we said tasks cannot overlap. We can do many things at the same time. Rather, we go step at step. And the project is also not flexible to change. And so we need to get everything well planned before we start. And then we also said in the Agile or the adaptive project management approach, there is room, or there are rooms for changes, for adjustments to the project plan. In that case, we don't need to have everything properly designed before we start. We can start the project and even start to improve on the plan. So remember now, there are a few things you need to know. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It is a common saying. And if you don't know where you are going, any road will take you there. So that's why planning is very important in project management. What gets measured gets managed. So if you can easily measure something, it can be easily managed. For example, if you can easily measure the time you take to run from one point to another point, you can easily manage your timing in terms of how you run. So if you know that you can run from point A to point B in 10 minutes, you obviously will have to work within that 10 minutes. So you can be able to manage your time by ensuring that you know. If you know how long it will take you to manage or to complete a particular work, you can manage your time. But remember now, you are doing a particular job and you don't even know how long it will take you to complete a job. How do you manage your time? You don't manage while you don't measure. So if you can measure easily, then it means you can manage. So successful project managers know how important it is to develop, refine, and follow plans to meet project goals. People are more likely to perform well if they know what they are supposed to do and when they are supposed to do it. And that is the essence of the project planning. The project planning helps us to clearly outline what we're supposed to do and when we are to do it. Who is to do it? Very important. Those are key things that we need to track. What we are to do, that means the activities, the different tasks we have, what we are to do, the different tasks, different activities. Number two, when are we to do it? The timeline of each activity or task. We need to have a clear timeline of when we need to do it in terms of duration and due date. So we need to have a duration. How long, how many days, how many weeks, how many months will it take for us to do this work, a particular task or activity? And then what is the specific timeline? Remember now, we have a duration. For example, we want to do this particular work in 5 days. But in 5 days, we need to come up with a date. Maybe saying December 1 to 4. So December 1 to December 4, 5 days. At least it's clear enough. We know we need to do the job in 5 days, and our start date is December 1. Our end date is December 4. Then we have who is to do it, which is the responsible person. So the responsible person helps us for accountability. So if we are trying to know who was assigned to this particular task, if we are monitoring and we see that this work has not been done, who is assigned to it, then we can easily follow up to know what has been done or not. So that's why it's important to have every task assigned to a particular team member. Every task must be assigned to a particular team. So who is to do it, right? Those are important questions you will need to answer when you are developing a project work plan, And that is a very important document for your team to use when they are implementing project. Now, planning is often the most difficult part of project, and it can sometimes be difficult because the complexity around it. You got to put a lot of things together. You got to put all the pieces of things together. You got to figure out a lot of things. And another reason why the planning phase, is very important and critical is because right after the planning, you move to execution. So often people do not want to take time to plan well. That's one of the disadvantages. That's one of the bad practice. So people don't take too many times to plan. They just want to jump into it and start implementing. So theory and practice show that good planning is crucial to good execution. So if you want to plan, if you want to execute your project effectively, you need to take enough time to plan. So planning will be critical. The main purpose of planning is to guide project execution. So that project plans must be realistic and useful. So the reason we make planning important, the reason we plan is for us to have a guideline to our project execution. It's for us to have a roadmap. Remember we said, if you don't know where you are going, any road can lead you there. All right? So you need to have a roadmap to your project execution so that you will use that roadmap to guide you on your way to implementing the project. Again, the project managers often require a plan, but then no one tracks whether the plan was followed. So sometimes these are things that go wrong. These are some of the things that may go wrong. The project management and the project manager often require the plan, but then sometimes you don't find anyone following up with the plan. So one project manager said he will meet each project team leader within 2 months to review their project plans. 2 months later, the project manager has still not met with over half of the project team members. This is one of the challenges, right? Because there is no much time sufficient for the project manager. Why should project team members feel obligated to follow their own plans when the project manager obviously doesn't follow his? You see how funny is that, right? So if you, the project manager, you have a plan and you are not even following your own plan, how then can you, motivate your team to follow their own plan? You have a meeting and you didn't conduct a meeting. You said you're going to do this. You didn't do it. You have a lot of things on your plate. You have not even done any, but you are pushing others to do theirs. So it's important to know that you as a project manager need to have an exemplary behavior as well on the project to ensure that people have the right attitude. All right? It helps a lot because you can't ask people to account for something that you are not also in the position to do. You are not doing your own part well, then you're asking people. So oftentimes people follow you because you are a leader based on how you lead them. So if you are punctual, people will be punctual. If you are timely, people will be timely. If you are hardworking, people will be like. So leaders are determined to produce themselves oftentimes in their team. So it's obvious that if you are not, it's difficult to produce those very people. So bear in mind that those are things you need to trigger on. Now let's talk about scope management. All right. What are some of the processes and the outputs when it comes to scope management? Right. So the first thing we need to know is we are talking about project integration management and project scope management. For project integration management, we talk about what? Developing a project management plan. And the output is the project management plan that you develop. So at the end of the process, you have a project management plan, which is the output. For the project scope management, there are a lot of documents you need to create when it comes to scope management. Remember, when we talk about scope management, it has to do with what? What the project covers. What the project covers. All right? So it's important for us to know that the project scope management is what the project covers. All right? It covers what the project requirements are. So in a project scope management plan that you will develop, you need to think about the project requirements. Collect the project requirements. What are the requirements for this project? All right? What are the stakeholders' requirements? What do they need? So as a project manager, your first task is to understand the project requirements, is to understand what stakeholders need. If you are applying for a project that has been advertised, you need to read the project, the call for proposal, That call for proposal document must be read, and you must understand that proposal or that call for proposal document to be able to really know what the donors are requesting for or what the stakeholders are requesting for. In other cases, if you need to implement a project for a client, you need to have a meeting with that client where you take time to ask the client and really understand what the clients need. This is very crucial because you need to document the requirements. You need to document what the requirements are for the project. Once you have understood the requirements, then you now can define the project scope. Let's take, for instance, a case study project, and I'm going to ask you a question around this. Let's assume that we have a project, a training project. You were hired as a project management specialist to conduct training for an organization. If you were to ask questions relative to the requirements or the scope, what are some of the questions you'll be asking? I hire you, or an organization calls you, oh, as a professional person, we want to organize or we want to conduct a training for our staff. What are some of the questions you're going to ask in order to understand the scope of that training that they're requesting you to conduct? Let's go ahead. Let's discuss. The floor is open.
Yeah.
Hello? Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, if I'm hired by an institution to conduct a training, the first thing I gotta know what specific training they want to do, want me to carry out rather, and how many participants or how many staff will be involved, the number of days, and yeah, these are some basic questions I will ask.
Right. Very nice. Anyone else? Thank you so much, Joseph, for sharing that. You said you're going to ask questions about the specific focus of the training, what the training is about.
Lawrence, not Joseph. Lawrence.
Oh, Lawrence. Okay, sorry. And then you also said you're going to ask about the number of staff that will be part of it. Why is it important to know this? Why is it important for us to know the kind of training they want and the number of staff? Yes. Why do you want to know those things as a project man?
So the reason you want to know the kind of training they want is to have the people of expertise to come, maybe inviting guest lecturer. Because remember, one man do not have monopoly or knowledge. So there's a certain specific area you might not have key control over. So you have to invite people who have worked in that area with the vast knowledge to give their own, experience and maybe doing the lecture or what have you. So, and the other one with the issue of knowing the amount of people who you want to train is to help you plan how the training section will be. Like usually people will always put people in the small groups, and then have group discussion, do later on come back and do presentation. And if you are also planning, if you're for feeding and what have you, you know what to tell the caterer, how many persons they should prepare for, what are kind of food you should expect to bring on the table and what have you.
Wow.
Yeah,
very impressive. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, almost. I just want to add to Lawrence. I think Lauren has said all, but let me just add something there. All right, you see, it's very important because the school will tell you exactly what involved, and it's very necessary to ask adequate to ask for the type of training, because every training can be an objective. All right, any training you conduct, there will be an objective. At the end of the day, you must be able to achieve what you think the donor who you are implementing want to achieve. All right. So and to do that, you need to know the number of participants, because if you don't know the number of participants, don't assume that you carry 100 persons to go training in one session. Definitely your objective will not be met, because that whole class will be noisy. Yeah, your cloud management will be very poor. All right, because you will not be able to, the message will not be able to go across everyone. So a good to know the number of participants so you can do. And some of the training have something called interactive learning. All right. And it made farmer to become experts because that's why in the training we call it AISA. The farmers bring the idea, or you that are going there as a facilitator or maybe as a trainer, as a hire, you don't know all. The farmer have experience. All right. It's just how to modify, they don't know, but they have experience. So he let them to interact, and that's why he said at a group work, he let them interact, then they will bring us some finding. You will modify it and you will even learn from them. So in order to do that, the numbers of farmers, the number of participants, you got to know the number of participants. Then another thing you have to know is the number of location, the location where the training is going to be held. It's very important. All right. You got to know the location. Then also a budget why you got to know, because you're not going to take somebody far off from that area that you're not able to transport them back, because you got transport reimbursement. So you got to know the number, the location of the training is very important. And then you have to also know how many persons so that we can able to plan for them on budget why. And even food, as you said, even food. Or even the caterers got to know, because they're going to ask you how many persons we're going to cater for. If you don't know as a hire that you are hired as an expert, it'll be very difficult. So it's very important to know your process scope. So thank you so much.
Wow, very impressive. Do we have anyone else? Joseph, why you want to add up? All right, so you see, that's why we said the first step in the scope planning is to collect requirements. From the stakeholders. All right, and then you can now define the scope. So based on your questions, based on those questions you asked, and then you now be able to understand what the stakeholders actually understand or what the stakeholders actually need, then you can now define the scope, which is coming up with a scope statement, which will be clearly defined. For example, in the case of the project, you'll be talking about what the project will be focused on, the training. All right, this training will focus on XYZ. It will cover following topics, and XYZ number of people will be trained. And where are they from? They will be from maybe the organization that you're going to work with and all of that. Who are the participants? The participants will consist of XYZ number of people and all of that. How will the training be? What are the materials included? So many other things, you will define them very well. Now, once you have defined your project scope, you can now create the work breakdown structure. The WBS work breakdown structure is a management tool that we use to make work simple. So we make big things simple. For example, for us to be able to conduct the training, what are some of the tasks we need to carry out? What are some of the things we need to do in order to have a successful training?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. What are some of the things we need to do in order to have a successful training? Number one, let's go.
Yeah.
What do we get?
Yeah, number one.
Yes.
Yeah, number one, you need to know your training site, where you are going to conduct the training first.
Okay.
That's number one.
All right.
You know that,
so securing the location, right? The location of your training is a task.
Yeah.
Okay.
The location of the training. Then next thing, the training materials.
All right. Developing the training material.
Yeah, your training materials.
Right.
Then another thing is the caterer. You gotta also know the caterer, because the people will not be there need to eat. You gotta know all that one day.
Right. Getting suppliers like caterer, right?
Yeah.
To provide food feeding for the training.
Yeah.
Great.
Then so then another thing is you have to also have the accessibility of the area, because some of the team maybe car will be going there, or maybe your donor will let you come visit the place. So accessibility of the training. So I think in the training location also.
Okay, so during the training location set, we do an assessment of the area, right? So that it suits our need. Great. Yes. Who else? Lawrence or Mr. Watt? What do you think? What are some of the things we need to do in order to conduct the training? What are some of the tasks? All right. Because we have that training task that we need to do, but we need to break that work into smaller parts That's the purpose of work breakdown structure. And you're going to do that for your project, right? You got a series of activities you're going to conduct on your project, but you need to break those things down into smaller parts. For example, this particular activity that we have, let's say a training. A training is an activity of our project. For us to conduct a training, we need a series of work done for that training to happen. We need to hire the trainer. We need to develop training materials. We need to secure the venue. We need to hire a caterer and all the different things that he mentioned as well, right? Even getting the participants as well. We need to make sure we get participants in and everything set up. We need to get speakers and trainers on board, and then we need to get all the logistics available. Right, let's go. Any addition?
Well said, Mr. Kekla.
All right.
Yeah.
Any question at this moment? Any question at this moment?
For me, I don't think so.
Okay.
We are good.
All right. So now let's talk about project integration management. So we said scope has to do with all the things that the project will cover. And those are things we have to clearly define. We have to know the requirements from the stakeholders. That's what we said. And then we have to define the scope, and we have to make sure we have a work breakdown structure that will allow us break the scope into smaller parts, different project work into smaller parts. So project integration management looks at coordinating all the project management area throughout the project lifespan. So the main planning output is the project management plan. So when we have the project management plan, the integration management looks at how do we incorporate all the different aspects of the project, looking at the project team, the project timeline, the project activities, the project scope, the project budget. How do they align? How can we align all the different project components, all the project management areas into one project? For example, every project requires a project timeline. We got project scope, project stakeholders, project communication, project procurement, project quality, project risks, and other aspects of the project. The question is, how do we make sure that all of these areas of the project can work in line throughout the project? Because every part of the project is important. Every part of the project is important for the success of the project. If the project must go well, you must manage the schedule. If the project must go well, you must manage stakeholders. If the project must go well, there must be communication. If the project must also go well, you must manage the risks. If the project must go well, you should manage the budget. You should manage the scope. You should manage the quality, the procurement, and other aspects of the project. So the integration management is looking at how do you plan your project, considering all the aspects of the project to come together and work hand in hand. So a project management plan is a document used to integrate and coordinate all project planning documents, and is to help you guide a project execution, monitoring and controlling, and closure. So plans created in other knowledge areas are subsidiary parts of the overall project management plan. So as I said, the project management plan is the overall document, which is the plan for the entire project. But for you to have a project management plan, you need to have other plans that will join together to make a full project management plan. For example, you need to have the procurement plan. The procurement plan handles the procurement aspect of the project, where you will outline the items you need, the companies you'll be procuring from, and then you'll be looking at other components of your project, right? And then you got communication management. You have to have a plan of how you're going to communicate on the project, how often you will share report, who will send what to what, all right? You also have to have quality management plan. The quality plan looks at the project quality requirements. For example, if we are doing a training, what quality of training we want? What level of that training we want? Is it a beginner level, advanced, intermediate, or what kind of level of the training that we want? And so we need to come up with a quality in terms of the satisfaction or the needs of the client. Then we have the project risk management, where we have to identify the project risks, plan on how to mitigate the project risk. All the different plans you will develop, bringing them together to make one document is what we call the project management plan. And that is what we call project integration, where you put all the documents into one. The project schedule, coming up with a clear timeline for your project, where you will outline all the different activities on your project, the duration for each activity or phase, and the phase of the particular project, coming up with the entire project timeline. That is also part of the project management plan. So for you to have a full project management plan, you need to develop the other plans into smaller parts. So as I told you earlier on, I will share with you a document, a Word document consisting of key project management planning templates that you can make use of. Stakeholder planning, communication plan, risk management, stakeholder and other plans, procurement plan and all that. You can make use of those templates to create a plan for each component or each aspect of your project. Combining those plans into one document makes it a full project management plan. Any question or input?
Yeah, Mohammed, it's not really category.
Yes.
Input. Thank you so much for the time. You see, it's very important because if you're good at you, the next question I'm going to ask you was, but you are just answered that you are going to give your time, because to have this plan in just one area is not easy. But because every component on the project management, because I see the procurement plan, the budget plan, all the one they had different activities. But you are just said that you are going to help us with the template. You are very good at that, because it's not going to be easy to just put it into a one at one, because they are different. It can work, but they are different. They need to break down to a different. And you are just said it. And thank you so much, because these key areas, these are one of the major areas that we are in the whole project management. This is what I see in a place, because in order for your project to succeed, you need to understand the various plan, all right? Because they are key roles. Each and every one has key role to play. So thank you so much. This one we are already paying attention. We're very important here. So thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? All right. So let's jump into it. Now, another question I have for you. Remember now, we have something we call baseline. Have you heard about baseline before? And what do you know about baseline?
Yes, sir.
I will hold you on, and I will take another person. Sorry, but let's get another person to respond to that question.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Basically, baseline has to do with information. Like, for example, you go on a project somewhere, is those initial pieces of information you obtain. For example, you want to do a production of cassava in a particular terrain. So the yield component, because the SM, maybe the project is about increasing the yield of cassava in our area. Maybe the people producing 1 metric ton or 2 metric ton per hectare. So, and you carry your intervention, you're telling them you will bring relief to them to increase their production. So obviously, maybe it means that 5 metric ton per hectare. So those initial data you're collecting, or those initial check you are doing on what is obtaining, so that you use it and do comparative analysis, is the baseline.
Wow, nice one. Very nice one. Great contribution.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically it's the baseline is serve as the reference point for a project to compare to that of other project performance before conducting your project time performance over time.
Wow, very nice. So we do an initial study, or we collect initial data. We call that baseline data. At the starting of the project, before we get to implement, we do a little check of what we have on ground, and then we understand the situation before we get started. Sometimes the closing, when you close a particular project, your project final report can serve as a baseline for another project, because when you are doing the final project report, you were able to gather data on the situations, you were able to analyze the current situations or how you left it, and before closing on a particular project. So, right, so that is very important. Mr. Woods, you can mute.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Right, so the baseline is very important. It's very, very important as part of the project planning, right? Because we need to measure changes over time. So we will be using the baseline data as a reference point for change, right? So before our project, this wasn't happening. Now it is happening. Or before our project, the farmers were producing at this level. Now they are producing at XYZ level. There's an increase by 7%. So we can tell that change. So a project management plans should be dynamic, should be flexible, and receptive to change when the environment or project changes. So remember, we said you can always visit a project management plan to make some adjustment to it, but it depends on the kind of project you are implementing. Just as projects are unique, so project plans are also unique. For a small project involving a few people over a couple of months, a project charter, team contract, scope statement, and Gantt chart might be the only project planning documents needed. There will not be a need for a separate project management plan. So for example, if you're implementing a short project, you don't need to have too many critical planning. Maybe you just need to develop a short project charter, all right? A brief project charter, and then you come up with a project, the team contract. Those who will be working on the project, develop the contract. And then you define your scope, what the project will cover, the focus, the activities, and and the key things that the project will deliver. And you come up with your Gantt chart. The Gantt chart is a schedule tool. All right, it's a tool that helps you to schedule your project and outline the project activities in line of when they will be implemented. That's all you need, the timeline. And it helps you a lot implement the project. But if you're looking at a project involving 100 people over 3 years, it will benefit from having a detailed project management plan and separate plan for each knowledge area. So if you're implementing a large project involving 100 people and over 3 years or so, then you can come up with a detailed plan. That will mean you have to have a procurement plan. You will need to have a schedule, a timeline. You will need to have a scope plan. You need to have a communication plan. You need to have stakeholder plan, risk management plan, quality plan, and so many others to make sure that project plan is complete. It is important to make sure that all your project documents fit to the needs of the specific project. Each project will require a specific plan. They are not going to be the same. So let's look at some of the common elements in project management plans. Number one, it needs to have an introduction or the overview of the project. This will provide the background of the project. Number two, you need to talk about the project organization, the organization implementing the project as well. Then you will need to talk about management and technical processes, including project lifecycle description and development approach. Then you can talk about the work to be performed, the project activities or the work to be performed. This is the scope. Schedule. What's the timeline for your project? And what are the phases and how long will the project last? Budget. And then you come to reference to other project documents. So at the end of the project plan, you can have references to other project documents that you have attached to the project management plan. So we've talked a lot about project scope management, and we said project scope management involves defining and controlling what the project is and what the project is not included, what work is included and what is not included. So the scope management plan helps us to clearly define what will be included in the project and what will not be included in the project. The main planning tasks include planning scope management, collecting requirements, defining scope, and creating the work breakdown structure. As I said, the document you're going to produce are requirement document, the requirement management plan, the other documents like matrix and scope plan or baseline document, which is looking at where you are starting from, the scope baseline, where you're starting from, right? Which is very important. So when we do the scope management plan, remember, we need to validate. So there must be acceptance of the document we develop by other stakeholders, by the customer first, and other stakeholders that may be important in the process. When we say about the customer, we are talking about the person who owns the project. So the person will have to confirm or validate or accept what you say, what you included in the project. There must be an agreement. Everybody have to agree before we move to the next phase. In contrast, verification, when done as part of controlling quality, means the deliverable complies with the regulation, requirement, specification, or imposed condition. So the purpose of validating is to help clarify everything before we move to the next phase, so that we don't have another party dissatisfied with the process. So we need to make sure we have all these things set up, as part of what we have in terms of this. Let's talk about the importance of defining project scope. Number one, it helps improve the accuracy of time. When we have the clear scope, it means that we are working within what we say we can work in. So imagine yourself telling someone you can conduct a training in 5 days and this and that. So you will be able to work within time, and you'll manage the cost because you know that the scope is already clear. And you'll also be able to clearly estimate how much you need, the resources required. Defining the project scope can also help us define the baseline for performance measurement and control. So we can clearly come up with the agreement of what is included in the project. For example, the number of beneficiaries. And we agree upon that, and we can measure performance based on that. So we can have other things included. All right. It helps us to also communicate the work responsibilities, because we already know what we have to do. So we can clearly assign tasks and know who is to do it. Let's look at an example. All right. The scope statement example. Maybe you are conducting a training project titled Just-in-Time Training Project. All right. It's a training project. Let's look at the product characteristic and requirement. It says this project will produce 3 levels of courses: executive, introductory, and advanced, in the following subject areas: supplier management, negotiating skills, and project management, and software applications, spreadsheet and web development. Details on each course are provided below, right? So the description is clear, telling you what the training is going to focus on, the level of the training, and the topics that will be covered. All right. Then we have supplier management training. The supplier management director estimates the need to train at least 200 employees each year. There should be 3 levels of courses: executive course, introductory course, and advanced course. Course material should be developed as a joint effort with internal experts, outside training experts, if needed, key supplier. A partnership might be developed to maximize the effectiveness of the training and minimize the development cost. Different delivery methods should be employed, including instructor-led, video or web-based training. About half of employees would prefer an instructor-led approach, and about half would prefer a self-paced course they could take at their own convenience. So you see that it clearly defines what the training will require, the training methodology, and the approaches as well that we're going to use. So product user acceptance, the courses produced as part of this project will be considered successful if they are all available within 1 year and the average course evaluation for each course are at least 3 to or a 5-point scale. So in terms of project exclusion, remember when we talk about scope, we are talking about what is in and what is out. So we get scope in and scope out. So in terms of project exclusion, the training related to Six Sigma is not part of this training. It's not part of the project. Providing new facility is not part of the project. So you have to be clear to define what is included and what is not included. Take for instance our training, right? We give you a clear training outline if you check our website. You know the different training topics and modules that will be covered. And then the ones that may not be covered. So it gives you a clear understanding of what the project will cover. And we said for our training timeline, we'll talk about the overview, and then we'll cover the 5 project management approaches or the 5 project management life cycle. And we talk about initiation. Now we are talking about planning. From this, we'll talk about execution, monitoring and controlling, and then closeout. So you can evaluate that based on what it will look at. There are other aspects of the project that we may not go deeper in. For example, to talk about each aspect of the project in detail, like scope management, risk management, other management areas, to discuss them in detail, the course may not be able to cover that. But we are also talking about them in smaller parts in the lesson. Right? So now, after developing a scope statement, we say you should create a what? A work breakdown structure. Now you can see the work breakdown structure on the screen. Supplier management training. Number 1 that we need to do, supplier management training. So for us to conduct a supplier management training, number 1, we need to do needs assessment. We need to conduct a needs assessment. Now, a survey will be conducted to determine the learning objectives for the executive, introductory, and advanced courses. So you need to do a research to come up with the learning objectives and the focus area for the training at different levels. Because you got advanced for executive, you got executive training, you get introductory, and you get advanced. And each level will not cover the same topics or the same style. You have to develop different ways. So you got to do that assessment or that research to come up with them. So the corporate online service software will be used and coordinated with RT and HR and all of that. So you can do a report at the end of the study. That needs assessment report will detail what the training will focus on. After the training, part of the research, you do existing training. You research existing training. Other training in supplier management, you look at them. You look at their curriculum as well and how they are doing it. So yes, it's part of the process. You got to look at what they are doing, other training institutions, what they're offering, so that you can be able to compare with what you want to offer as well. And that's very important as well. That's another work you have to do. Then you got partnership. So you can have a partnership agreement with training organizations that will run the training for you. All right? So you may have an institution that will provide you that training. So you need to partner with them. That's another work that you need to do, that partnership. Then you can now develop the course. So if you hire an institution, the institution you hire may be the one in charge of developing the course. Or if you hire a trainer, the trainer will be the one, the training consultant will be the one developing the course. And then we see number 5, you will pilot the course. A pilot course will be provided for the introductory supplier management course. Feedback from the pilot course will be incorporated. A pilot course is like a test. So when we develop a course, we can test it to see how effective the training is, the materials, and all of that. So you do that with a smaller scale, on a smaller scale. And then you can get feedback maybe on how you deliver the training, this and that, and you improve on it before you can do the actual training. So some people do it with their team and all that, in-house training with their team to test it, test the materials and all of that to see the feedback before they can improve and do the final work. Any question? So there's an example of scope management. Any question?
Yeah.
Yes. Or
Okay.
comment or whatever.
Lawrence.
Yes. Yes, Lawrence.
Okay. Yeah, so with the issue of piloting the training, it said in all cases that you should pilot your training course before implementing it.
Not ready. Not in all cases you will need to pilot the training before you implement it. Especially where if you reach to the point where you already, I mean, there's something you already master and you could you do it all the time. You wouldn't need to pilot it. But if the organization that you want to implement a project for requires you to do so, maybe do a demo presentation with them on how they, maybe do a kind of testing presentation. Let's say for us, for example, right? Part of our process of hiring trainer for our program, we do a pilot test. All right. So the trainer will hire before they do presentation to our participants. We have a time where they will do a pilot presentation to us, and then we will do feedback sessions and all of that before we can finalize. Sometimes we do a pilot test with them when the cohort starts. So sometimes we tell them we'll give you 2 weeks. Like recently we have a new facilitator for our entrepreneurship course. We're giving 2 weeks for pilot testing. So the 2 weeks, we allow him to go in the class with the participants and we follow him through. We had a team member that was assigned to the course. So he was participating in the training. He was there watching everything for 2 weeks. So the first 2 weeks, we observed everything, the methodology, the feedback from students, and then we regularly collected feedback from students on his presentation and all of that. And we saw it very good enough. And we ourselves, based on our follow-up, we saw it very good. And that was how we finalized his recruitment. So yes, there can be a timing where you do piloting, but not in all cases.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So that's it. We talked about the project team should update the scope as new information becomes available. So as new information come in, you need to update the scope. For example, the training, maybe you think there's something new that came up, and that is very important for participants to learn. You can include it, right? But make sure that when you're including them, it shouldn't affect the overall project timeline and other things, right? So bear in mind that if you are adding to the project, it shouldn't cost you much. It shouldn't cost you like extra money, and it shouldn't cost you extra time. All right. You should find a way to integrate that and work within the current plan. Because any attempt to include things that will affect the project timeline and budget, it will affect the project quality as well. All right. So name different iterations of the project state. So let's talk about what we call scope creep. All right. You know what a scope creep is? It is the tendency for project scope to continually increase. So that's how we call scope creep, wherein too many requests coming in to increase the scope continually, and that can affect the project highly. And that's the reason why the scope statement is very important. When you have a scope statement clearly stated, it prevents you from scope creep. It prevents you from accepting new thing or new work to do, whereas it's not included in a project. Have you had any experience of scope creep before in any of your projects, where you had an agreement and everything, but during implementation, maybe the donor or the customer started requesting new thing to be added to the project? Have you had any experience of such? And maybe you want to share. You don't need to call the institution name and so on. Just give us the experience on the overall if you have any.
Yeah, Mohammed, thank you so much again. All right. I have not worked on a project anyway to get a school people. I have winning a project in that implementing presently, which I will not call the name. I think what you are just talking it is what they are going to. All right, this project is a government implemented project, but also a World Bank project. All right. According to when the project was written, the project was in 5 value chain, which is cassava, they were in oil palm, they were in animal hot boundary, which is pig, the in chicken or that thing. But again, all setting, we see now the project is into rest. They are into vegetable. So I think what you just said is what they are going to, because they were not inside, they were not part of the project. If you look at the project, if you look at the project document that they posted on the website, it's not inside. But now they are in rest. All what the 11 countries, they are in rest production now. The same way with Starpiece also. They are also in rest again. They were not in rest, they were in oil palm and other things, but now other than in rest. So I think that the same thing you are talking about now, they are going to project school speak. Thank
Before you say it was a scope creep, you need to find out whether it was not agreed upon. Remember, we said the scope can be updated. So if it was an agreement of all stakeholders and there were funding made available or some extra provisions for those things to be added, or the project were restructured or somehow discussed and the re-strategized to look at the focus or key priorities they could focus on, of course, that is not run. So if it was in an agreement with stakeholders and all of that. But when we talk about scope creep, it's basically where the project stays or the project is working within the original plan, but there are additional requests coming outside of that plan and it's not being fully agree upon and so on, especially when it comes to increasing the scope, maybe without increasing the budget or timeline and so on. So yes, so until you can maybe find out in terms of the negotiation that was carried out before those things were adjusted, we can't just say it was a scope creep until we can determine. So yes, of course, but projects do go into updating their plan or scope or adjusting if the need arises. Any other person before we move ahead? Yes. Yes, Teresa, welcome.
Thank you. So good to be back here. Similar thing that I in the program where the program is covering young women from the age 12 to 35, but they are in different categories. So for the last group, which is the early adults from 25 to 35, on the first cohort, they were placed in a club to be trained on other things before they gave them an economic development. But then they realized in last cohort that those group of people were busy. So most of them were attending the training. So to teach the request from the fields that those people attending, the church was on the fees have the years. So people wrote that they okay, you said for they are not interested. So we can give them the support also the cup. And so for the school, the management decided to to always change the particular side of the program. And also the question coming from the field that the young one at the to be fair in section of the school the home when it says one to something that will be polished for the time. So that may coming much more budget so to address it but then
Teresa, network is breaking. Oh, very sad.
Also, you're not getting me?
Teresa, you are very breaking for me. I need anything from you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Place to like working is that good. Yeah,
They said the FIFA is bad.
Yeah. So okay, we're about to close, guys. So we're about to close. All right. We're
Yeah,
about
Mohammed,
to close.
Mohammed, I want to ask a question.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to get a clarity, man. Is it also good you implemented a project, all right? After you have read the project document, you see the money, everything there that can implement the project, and you decide to implement the project. Is it also good that the donor who paying that money be warning you that you are not using the money until they take the money from you and go to another country?
That's a very big question. Let's talk it over in the chat. Maybe you can ask that in the chat room. Others can share their perspective. That's a very big question. So we have to understand this.
We have to understand this fully.
The actual information.
The actual information.
Let's discuss that in the chat room there. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the last thing quickly in 5 minutes. Then we wrap it up and close. The last thing we're going to talk about is work breakdown structure. And it's called WBS. We said work breakdown structure is what we call deliverable oriented, which is grouping your work into smaller parts and making sure that your different work that you have to do are defined or divided into smaller parts. So the work breakdown structure can be shown in two different forms. They got the graphical or the chart form, or you have the tabular or list form. So depending on the one that is comfortable with you, you can create a work breakdown structure coming up with what exactly this is talking about. So let's take, for instance, this one. So the work packages is basically looking at the lowest level of the work where it can be appropriately assigned to and managed by a single accountable person. All right. So the work package, you assign them to individuals who will be able to manage the work package. So each work package should be defined in enough detail to estimate what it will cost and how long it will take to create. That's very important, how long it will take to create. So each work package is part of a control account, a management control point for performance measurement where scope, budget, and schedule are integrated and compared to the end value. So we have a work package, which is the deliverable that we assign to a specific person who will account for it. So we need to have somebody who will account for a specific work package, and then other team members are also able to work. Remember now, in the responsibility or the responsibility matrix, we'll get something we call the RACI chart. RACI chart. You can take note of that. RACI is spelled as R-A-C-R. R stands for responsible, A stands for accountable, C stands for consulting, and R stands for inform. So the RACI chart is a strategy of how you break down work into smaller parts and assign to team members. So there is somebody who will be responsible for a particular work, which is the RR, responsible person. This person is the one to do the work, responsible. Accountable person is the one who is to account for that work. So maybe you have somebody who is responsible to develop the training materials, but you have somebody who is assigned to manage that training program. So the person who is managing the training program is to account, right? Or the person who is ahead of managing the team that developing the tasks of the training materials can account for it. Then you have the consult. Consult is if the team needs help, who do they reach out to for help if they need help? And then you have inform. Who are you to inform if a particular work is done? Who is to be informed if the particular work is done? So that is very important to understand the different tasks that you have in terms of what you can do. So let's take, for instance, you see here, you see an example of a WBS for a birthday party. It's just an example. So the first level, you have birthday cake. So for you to have a birthday cake, that's the first level. The whole goal or the whole focus is to have a birthday cake. But for you to have a birthday cake, there are a lot of things to do to produce the cake. So we come to level 2. The cake, the frosting, the toppings, and the candles, all those things have to come together to produce a cake. For the cake to be produced, you come to level 3. You need flour, you need eggs, you need oil, you need baking powder, you need cocoa. All right, you come to the frosting, you need the powdered sugar, the water, the vanilla. When it comes to toppings, you need chocolate sprinkles, you need chocolate shavings and all that. Then the candles, you need candle holders and numeric candles. So what I mean is, for you to get a particular work done, you need to have several things accomplished. Just as construction project, for you to get the foundation, which is level 1, to build the foundation of the house, you have a couple of things to do. At level 2, maybe the digging and stuff and the measurements or all that have to be done. And then you got the real work that you have to do as well. So that is looking at the work breakdown structure as well. For house showing, you see here, house at Avenue Drive. So you want to build a house. That is the focus of the project. You want to build a house. But you got set level 2, which is the foundation, external construction, internal construction. You got the roofing, you have the electrical and all the other things. So you see, the foundation, you got a different work to do. The internal or external construction got different work to do. The roofing, the services, the plumbing, kitchen, bathroom, all the things that you have to do. So to build a house, you need to have the foundation, internal, external construction, the roofing, and other things done. That is the work breakdown structure. And the reason for doing this is to help you know who is our level, right? Because sometimes you may hire somebody to do a particular level of your work, and another person or another company might be assigned to do another part, maybe the plumbing work, and maybe the electrical work could be done by other people offering those different services, not necessarily the people who built a house or constructed a house. So creating a work breakdown structure is very important and makes it easy for you to have a proper understanding of what you need to do. So let me just show you a kind of example of what a work breakdown structure is using a project management tool. A project management tool that helps us to easily break down our work. But at the moment, any question? Do you have any question, guys? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we are seeing your screen.
All right, you can zoom in, okay? If you want to see it properly, you can zoom in. Please, I'm just trying to show you something that you can look at in terms of work breakdown structure, and for a project, a case study project, something like this. So when you see this, this is the core 7. So within our management tool, because we are managing this project, we have 3 categories of things here. We got list to do, we got doing, and we got done. So here we can use this to track. All right. So if I come to dashboard, now if you can see the dashboard, can you tell me the total tasks that we have to do? Can anyone share with me what you're seeing on the screen, the total tasks?
Yeah,
the dashboard. Yes.
The total task is 31.
All right, 31. So we got 5 overdue, right?
Yeah.
Then we have 27 incomplete. Then we got 4 completed. All right. So here you can see different form of this. I'm going to show you this. Let me show you the calendar. So you can see the calendar. This is a calendar. It will show. You see here, December 11, we have a task here. Prepare and send preliminary training clearances. So this is December 11th, which will be next week, is when we'll start to send preliminary training clearances based on what we have covered so far, because next week will be week 8. All right. And then we have timeline. So you see, when you see the timeline, you can also see the different tasks we have and the range in terms of when the different tasks will be done. We have the board form as well. So let me come to the list. Now you see the to-do list. You have those different work to do. Now under each task, we have listed down the subtasks. I'm going to click on one so you can see all the tasks we have. You see here? Can you see on the side of it? Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
All right. So here we have what we call, we say the graduation ceremony. So we have the graduation ceremony. There's a brief description. The graduation ceremony is the closing program of the cohort where all students who successfully completed a cohort gather to celebrate their achievement. There are a series of activities or tasks to be carried out to ensure a grand ceremony. Here are subtasks to guide our work and ensure timely preparation. Graduation date, Saturday, January 13, 2024, venue, Cinco Palace Hotel. So you got a different tasks. Number one, prepare a budget for the graduation. Secure the graduation hall. We have completed day one. We have completed securing the graduation hall. And then we have guest speaker selection and notification. We have not done this yet. December 11 is the deadline for that. We have purchase and print of class t-shirt. We have not done this yet. Scarf preparation, this is already completed. Payment of graduation fee by students, December 23, deadline. Purchase of certificate frame, December 23. Design the graduation program booklet, December 30. Hire media for live coverage, December 30. Design the guest speaker flyer, prepare the graduation hall, prepare the slideshow for the graduation ceremony, and other tasks that may come along. So you can see each person that we assign to the task. You can see them here. Everybody have their assigned task to deliver on. So this, it helps you a lot to be able to follow up in terms of what is going well and what is not going well, and so many other things. How do you see this, guys?
It's good, oh. It's good.
Excellent. Muzakagla,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Right.
I'm despite of me being, I had over 3-4 days. Actually in Sierra Leone, I got in yesterday, even at Bima guy. We've been beat up, but the nature of the work. They gone time in Ganta and Grand Bassa will came up with WBS as well. For 2024 on the project that I own. Exactly as you atomize the activity, that's how we did it. I have it in my mail. And it almost like the dashboard. Even myself tonight, I want to check on the dashboard and see whether I'm on path. Because rice supposed to be delivered to the southeast, I have a timeline. Technicians supposed to be deployed, I have a timeline. I mean, everything is atomized with the time attached, and this is the same that I've seen you doing. It puts your feet to the fire as project manager. So I'm so happy that what we're doing, when we move from there, from the field, we come in the chat room, they tell us what to do, then the next day we go to do it. Thank you so much.
Perfect. So you can use Excel, right? For some of you who know Excel, you can use Microsoft Excel to plan your project in timeline and so on. You can schedule it. You can create an Excel spreadsheet where you list the activities, the timeline, the person responsible. So yes, and you can track it. And you can also create checklists on in spreadsheet. If the work is done, the person can just go and click on done. It will run line into it. You can create a checklist there. If you don't have the funding, because the platform that we are using, Asana is very good. That's the platform we are using. Asana send reminder, right? So all the team members assign, it sends all reminder every time. For example, if we have tasks for tomorrow, we'll receive reminder today telling us that we have tasks tomorrow. And so Asana will be able to remind us every time through email automatically, not us doing it. It's doing that for us, for me. So it makes communication easy. So if I put tasks there for any team member, the person will receive it straight in their email. I don't have to go and tell them, say, you have a work to do. Everybody will just open that dashboard. If they have a task, they will see it and they will receive email of that task. And once they complete it, they will click on complete and drive it to the next step. And I have to make sure that that work is done, and by seeing the result from the work you've done. So be sure that you've actually completed the work. So Asana helps you to have a dashboard. Like you saw my dashboard, the total tasks, the overdue, the income, the completed tasks, and the ones that are not completed. So it helps you to really track all those things in timeline and all that. But Asana is not free, even though they got 30-day free trial. You can try it. It's Asana, ASANA.com. You can try it for 30 days free and enjoy yourself, learn how to use it and to create a project. But after 30 days, you have to be paying some money towards it. So it's actually good for companies that can subscribe to it to easily manage their project. But for individuals like you, I wouldn't want you to subscribe until maybe you have a project that's paying you off, that's paying you. Then you can incorporate, or in your budget, you can put technology as part of your budget. You can just squeeze in Asana cost. I think it should be something around $12 or so, not more than $14 per month for you to use it. But for us, we found it very useful because we use all those different tools for our work to be easy and for also training purposes. So you can use those. We're using QuickBooks, where we are using Asana, we are using MailChimp, and a lot of other tools that we are using, and most of them are being paid for. So we have the budget for it under our technology support. So under technology, we have a specific budget that we do every year. So including maintaining, managing our websites and all the different technology platforms. Even the Zoom we are using now, we will also be subscribing to Zoom. I think it should be around between $12 to $15 every month. I will be paying and pay for other things. So just for subscription upgrade. Yeah, so all those things are there, and they are all important to make your work effective and so on. So imagine we have had this training session. Everything we discussed from start to finish have been recorded, and are going to generate the recording, and we have all we said. So imagine all that we have said here is not in vain. You can watch this video even anytime you can watch it. That's a benefit of this. This few hours we've been here or so is a beneficial because we have the recording, and that recording is an asset for you, not only me, for you as well. Because even you leave the program, you have access to something you can still reference. Yeah. So for those who missed the session, will also be able to make use of that video, which I think is going to help. That's the reason why we're trying to migrate to Zoom. Thank you, guys. I mean, this was very awesome. I'm going to start recording now if there's nothing more. But let me take feedback before we can close.
Yeah, Mohammed, how you doing?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I may applaud you for today's lesson. I think Zoom is not. We have been here about Zoom, but today we use Zoom again. We see that it's very clear. And the only thing just get good there. I just want to say thank you for the class, and I just pray that you please send all those notes today, please.
All right, sure. You receive that. All right, I will send you the entire pack.